Hold my coffee, because the stablecoin that everyone swore would sideline XRP just lit a rocket under it instead. And if that sounds upside down, wait until you hear the full story. Okay, so picture me yesterday morning, squinting at my screen like a raccoon in daylight because a headline screamed that Ripple's new stablecoin, RLUSD, just got regulatory thumbs up in Dubai. Now, my first thought was, great, another dollar-pegged token, doing laps in the DeFi kiddie pool. But then I kind of dug a little bit deeper, and the rabbit hole turned into a freeway straight from, and basically straight towards, I should say, XRP land. Now, here's a quick disclaimer, right? I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses. Right, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, here's the juicy bit. RLUSD isn't here to steal XRP's lunch money. It's more like the kind of sidekick who shows up with snacks so that the hero can fight longer. See, the XRP ledger, XRP itself, is obviously the native bridge asset. The kind of magical kind of toll token that everyone, or at least every transaction, pays to kind of cross the river. Now, that's the kind of status kind of gives XRP a VIP pass in the kind of pathfinding algorithm. So whenever the network kind of figures out the cheapest, fastest route between two currencies, it defaults to XRP. The translation here, RLUSD can join the party, but it still has to high-five XRP on the way in. Now, I know what you're thinking, but stablecoins gobble up liquidity, don't they? Normally, yes, Tether, USDC, they kind of slosh around like whales in a kiddie pool. Giant, slow, and they splash everyone. Yet Ripple built RLUSD with a very specific mission: corporate settlements and treasury ops that kind of demand price stability. Now, that kind of niche is pretty huge. Companies hate volatility the way that cats hate bathtubs. Give them a dollar-pegged token on the same rails as XRP and boom, suddenly the hallway kind of gets crowded. Payments come in RLUSD, conversion happens via XRP, and fees, as always, get paid in XRP. More traffic equals more tolls equals more demand. So you might be thinking, I need some numbers. And the stablecoin market kind of hit roughly $246 billion this May, right? Setting an all-time high. Now, when even 1% of that volume kind of skims into the XRPL, well, that's billions funneling through XRP's pipes. And Dubai's approval means RLUSD can legally service the Middle East kind of trade hubs. That's oil money, logistics cash, remittance flows, all itching for cheaper rails. So if you've ever kind of wired funds internationally and watched fees kind of flake off like dandruff, then you know why banks are drooling. But let's kind of back up to why people freaked out in the first place, right? The knee-jerk fear was that stablecoin equals XRP redundancies. Now, ultimately, it reminds me of a time when my cousin bought a GPS and proclaimed paper maps were dead, until his battery died halfway through the desert and he begged me for my old-fashioned atlas. Now, the same energy, of course, right? RLUSD kind of gives predictable pricing, but it also can't perform every trick in XRP's circus. So for cross-currency swaps, you still need a liquid bridge. And, volatile assets like XRP handle that slippage better because arbitrage keeps the spread tight. Stablecoins, they aren't built for that, right? They're built to kind of sit there and be, well, stable. Now, Ripple's CTO, David Schwartz, practically spelled it out. Only XRP pays the network fees. Only XRP lubricates on-demand liquidity. That kind of breakthrough service letting banks kind of ditch the pre-funded accounts. So raise your hand if you would like millions of dollars locked in dormant overseas bank accounts. Yeah, I didn't think so either. So ODL kind of frees that cash. XRP acts as the kind of relay baton, and RLUSD just keeps the scorecard neat for institutions that need exact dollar values on invoices. So you might be thinking, where does Dubai come in? And what we saw was the approval by the Dubai Financial Service Authority, which basically means RLUSD can operate inside the DIFC. That is one of the busiest financial free zones on the planet. So picture a souk, except kind of instead of spices and carpets, you've got Forex desks trading at the speed of light. Now, adding a compliant dollar-pegged coin there is kind of like paving a brand new highway off the busiest roundabouts in town. The traffic surge is inbound. Meanwhile, of course, back on the retail side, sentiment around XRP is swinging faster than a TikTok trend. So ever since the US SEC did its "is it a security, is it not" kind of hotkey kind of pokey, global exchanges outside of the States offered XRP unrestricted. Liquidity pools actually deepened. Pair that with kind of a dollar kind of stablecoin that settles on every kind of the very same ledger, I should say, and you kind of have a one-stop shop for DeFi builders who, let's be honest, will fork anything that moves. So expect lending apps, right? Automated market makers, and who knows what kind of meme coin casinos spinning up RLUSD to XRP pools before your next coffee even refills. But I promised personal stories along the way, so let me kind of confess. 2 months ago, I nearly rage quit XRP. I was staring at the chart flatter than my old battery or my old phone battery and thinking, why am I holding and hodling this glorified utility token? Fast forward to just last week, and I'm at a meetup where a banker from Santander casually mentions they're exploring Ripple's ODL to free up millions in Nostro accounts. He joked it's like kind of finding loose change in your couch, except the couch is global and the change is 8 figures. Now that's kind of when the light bulb kind of fried in my kind of skull here, right? Use case greater than hype. Right, RLUSD is just layers a kind of fresh use case on top of it all. I double my bag the very next morning. Now, of course, nothing kind of moon-bound without hurdles, right? So some kind of commentators, they suggest that RLUSD could soak up so much demand that XRP's price just stagnates. So let's think of it kind of like adding more lanes to a highway then, right? Traffic speeds up, but tolls per car might drop if they are kind of mispriced, or at least if you misprice it. So Ripple's kind of leadership here isn't necessarily obvious, right? CEO Brad Garninghouse said that RLUSD enhances liquidity and improves access, not replaces everything. Plus, the ledger's kind of fee system can be tuned by, consensus, but Swartz shot down artificial scarcity proposals precisely to keep the network utility focused. Now, they'd rather kind of attract 10 times the volume than gatekeep with kind of higher tolls. And here's a fun stat. In 2024, RippleNet processed over $30 billion in volume, and 60% of that kind of tapped XRP for settlement. Plug RLUSD into those corridors, and even a conservative 10% uptick sends billions more across the actual rails. So each hop burns a minuscule drop of XRP as a fee. It sounds tiny until you have billions of hops. So just imagine shaving a single grain off of a huge pile every single second, right? You come back in a decade and, well, that pile looks a lot lighter. Now that's kind of built-in burn gradually tightening the supply. Basic economics says that price pressure follows. Now let's talk about the emotions, because markets are basically just group therapy sessions with money, right? Fear is very loud, and tweets kind of scream at RIP XRP kind of rack up like likes, because, well, doom sells. But data actually whispers something different, right? And the data kind of says that RLUSD plus XRP is a symbiotic kind of duet, if you will, right? It's not a cage match. So it's kind of like Batman and Robin. Sure, Robin gets merch deals, but Gotham still calls Batman first. And if your palms are sweaty about diversification, remember, no one's kind of forcing a binary choice. In fact, straddling both assets could actually be a hedge, at least could hedge you, right? Stablecoin yields on DeFi protocols often pay out in vanilla tokens or, volatile tokens, sometimes even things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, right? Park some RLUSD there, earn some yield, swap it into XRP when you need liquidity, and you're kind of flexing a full toolkit. It's kind of like carrying both a debit card and a travel card on vacation. Now, you wouldn't shove kind of, pesos into a machine that only takes euros, right? Now, before we kind of wrap up, let me address the herd of kind of disclaimers, stampeding through my DMs, right? Yes, we have an affiliate link to Blowfin, crypto exchange, in the description down below. If you use it, this channel gets a little kickback at no extra cost to you, which keeps the lights on and the caffeine flowing. And speaking of community, our free educational Discord server is in the description down there too. If you want to kind of nerd out over kind of pathfinding algorithms or chart patterns, or which kind of meme coin just added a llama mascot, well, you want to jump in. It's completely free, and you'll also find me lurking around the voice chats most evenings. So, what's the climax of this roller coaster? Well, it's quite simple. RLUSD amplifies XRP's utility by pulling fresh traffic onto the very same rails while letting XRP keep its crown as the indispensable bridge. Ignore the kind of XRP is dead noise. Those folks are basically betting against the ledger's design itself. To me, that's kind of like yelling water is overrated, and while doing so, they're, sitting in a canoe. The key takeaways: 1. You've got regulatory clarity, it fuels adoption. Dubai's stamp on RLUSD just opened a giant door. 2. Stablecoin pricing plus volatile bridging creates a tag team that suits both corporates and degenerates. 3, right? The next wave of DeFi might not come from Ethereum copy-paste culture, but from purpose-built ledgers like the XRPL that marries speed, cost, and now stability. And so if your brain feels like it's just ran a marathon, good. That means that you learned something, right? Tap the description, join the Discord, snag the Blowfin affiliate link if you're hunting for an exchange that's shaking up the leaderboards. And as always, keep those kind of portfolios diversified and those passwords in cold storage.